In a world where science was trapped in darkness, where kings feared knowledge and scholars whispered ideas in secret, one young Muslim boy walked into a dusty old workshop and walked out as the father of chemistry. This is the unbelievable true story of Jabir Ibn Hayyan, the man whose experiments shook empires, whose discoveries changed every laboratory on Earth, and whose journey proved that when Allah opens a mind, no force on earth can shut it. His enemies tried to silence him. His students tried to imitate him. But only one thing kept him alive through danger, fire, betrayal, and exile: his unshakable faith. And today, after more than 1,200 years, the world still uses his methods without knowing they come from a Muslim. This is the story they never told you, but today you will hear it. Jabir Ibn Hayyan, the Muslim genius who changed the world forever. Jabir Ibn Hayyan was not always the legendary scientist the world knows today. He was once a fragile, quiet boy standing in the shadow of a father who lived dangerously close to the politics of the Abbasid Empire. And from the moment Jabir could walk, he watched whispers replace conversations and saw fear replace comfort in their home. Until one night, when torches flickered outside the door and soldiers dragged his father away, leaving little Jabir staring into the darkness of a world that had suddenly become cruel. But even then, Allah had a plan for him, because his father's last words, whispered like a prayer, were, "Seek knowledge, my son, for Allah raises those who learn." And these words burned inside Jabir's heart for the rest of his life. When he grew older, he traveled with his mother to Kufa, a city glowing with scholars, philosophers, and wandering seekers of knowledge. And there, surrounded by the dusty smell of old manuscripts and the soft hum of debates, he found peace for the first time since his father's death, and he realized that knowledge was not just power, it was healing. His sharp mind caught the attention of the great Imam Jafar al-Sadiq, a teacher whose wisdom touched both the heavens and the earth. And under his care, Jabir learned more than formulas and theories. He learned humility, the fear of Allah, and the understanding that science is not separate from faith, but a bridge that leads to deeper belief. Because every reaction, every transformation, every hidden pattern was a sign from the Creator. Jabir spent endless nights in the workshop, often staying awake until dawn, mixing, heating, distilling, and recording every detail with the precision of a man who believed that every secret of creation was waiting to be unlocked. He created tools no one had ever seen: retorts, alembics, furnaces, crystallization devices. And he wrote step-by-step procedures at a time when the world barely knew what an experiment was. Flames danced around him as he discovered acids. Sparks illuminated the walls as he perfected purification methods. And in the silence of midnight, he would whisper Subhanallah, overwhelmed by the beauty of Allah's laws manifesting before his eyes. But greatness never walks alone. It drags jealousy behind it like a shadow. And soon powerful groups began to notice that Jabir's work was attracting attention, influence, and students from lands far beyond Baghdad. Some accused him of practicing forbidden magic. Some spread lies that he was creating dangerous substances to support political enemies, and some simply hated him because his mind shined too brightly. But Jabir didn't care. He kept working, kept writing, kept discovering, because he believed Allah guides the sincere even through storms. One night, as thunder rolled across Kufa, Jabir sat alone in his workshop pouring a mysterious solution through a heated tube, and the moment it passed through, the world changed forever. The liquid transformed into a clear, sharp, incredibly strong acid, an acid that would later be known as nitric acid, the backbone of modern chemistry. He stared at it with trembling hands, realizing he was holding a discovery that would outlive kings, dynasties, and centuries. But while Allah was lifting him, people around him were plotting to crush him. Rumors reached the ears of the caliph. Whispers that Jabir was too powerful, too knowledgeable, too connected. And suddenly the man who had dedicated his life to understanding Allah's creation found himself chased by those who feared the truth he carried. One evening, while copying his notes under the light of an oil lamp, he heard hurried footsteps, friends bursting through the door, warning him that soldiers were on their way. And without hesitation, Jabir gathered only his most precious manuscripts, kissed the ground of his workshop, and escaped into the streets of Kufa, leaving behind years of experiments, but carrying the light of knowledge in his arms. For months he lived in hiding, traveling from village to village, writing in secret, teaching only those who swore loyalty to both knowledge and Allah. And though his life had become a shadow of fear, he continued producing books, hundreds of them, until the world began calling him the father of chemistry, without even realizing that he had written over 3,000 works. He created formulas for acids used today, discovered principles of evaporation, crystallization, distillation, calcination, oxidation, and reduction, and developed the very scientific method that modern laboratories rely on. But through all this brilliance, his heart remained soft with faith, and his tongue never stopped saying Alhamdulillah. When he finally settled in Tus at an old age, his hands had grown weak, his eyesight had dimmed, and the fire of his furnaces no longer roared the way they once did. But even then, each time he lifted a pen, he remembered his father's last words, and he would smile. And then one evening, as the golden light of sunset filled his small room, Jabir closed his eyes for the last time, returning to the Lord who had guided him from childhood trauma to scientific glory, and Allah made him immortal, not through years lived, but through knowledge given. Today, every laboratory that uses distilled water, every chemist who heats a solution, every student who studies acids, every scientist who follows a step-by-step procedure is walking on a path that Jabir Ibn Hayyan built over 1,200 years ago, yet the world rarely mentions his name. But we will. We must. Because his story is not just about science. It is about faith, perseverance, courage, and the miracles that happen when a believer seeks knowledge for the sake of Allah. And perhaps somewhere, if Jabir could see our world today, he would smile again, knowing his light still shines brightly. If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel proud of the Islamic legacy we inherited, then my brothers and sisters, don't let it stop here. Share this video so every Muslim child knows that our history is filled with giants. Leave a comment saying Alhamdulillah for Islamic scholars, and tell us which personality you want next. Subscribe to Deen in Minute so you never miss the powerful stories, miracles, and forgotten legends of our ummah. Your one share, your one like, your one comment could inspire someone to return to Islam, to study again, or to dream again. Be part of this Sadaqah Yariyah. Spread knowledge, spread light, and join the mission of reviving Islamic history, 1 minute, one heart, one story at a time.